Welcome to the 21st International April Conference of the High School of Economics. For the High School of Economics, the April Conference is one of the main events in research in science, and we are holding it already for the 21st year. For us, art and design, it's the 4th year we are doing this great event. Having in mind that the first time we were doing only the roundtable discussion, and now we are having the full conference program event, which is from our point of view is very interesting and very important. We're having a lot of speakers, and what is very important and I think great, that this year we have also the part of the students cases, which is very interesting for all of us. I'm not going to enumerate all the subjects, all the topics and all the speakers, because there are very interesting topics, and the whole name of our conference is Theories and Practices of Art and Design, Social, Cultural, Economic and Political Contexts. And we expect that during our discussions, we will cover a lot of very concrete things, concrete topics like very concrete artists and practices, and also such great things like research, the new type of research in art and design, and such topic which is also very important not only for our school, but also I think that for all participants is education and research in art and design today. Which is, I think, changing, and the role of research and education is changing, and the types and the instruments are changing. And I think that for us, it will be very interesting to exchange our experiences, our practices, which we have in different universities, because the participants which we have today are really representing a lot of different, not only universities in Russia, but also other countries, which is, I think, very good for all of us. So I don't know what to say more, because I don't want to cover all the topics we are going to discuss, but I want to wish all of us very unforgettable days of discussions, of presentations, questions and answers. So let me now give the floor to Ludmila, who will give the further instructions to us what to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to join Tatiana in saying that it's an absolutely special event for us. It's a big event for doctoral school in art and design, High School of Economics, which is the organizer of the event, and for Art and Design School, High School of Economics, because this is the fourth time we are doing it. And actually, there are some of the topics this year we are covering for the first time, because it's always interesting to explore new emerging subjects. And today we are going to start with one of them. This is the first time we are covering the subject of ceramics, glass and textiles, which we believe is a huge emerging discipline, which beautifully combines theories and practices, which is very dear to our heart as well. And I'm absolutely thrilled to open our conference and the panel on glass, ceramics, and textiles with a keynote speech by Dr. Wendy Gers, who is an award-winning activist scholar, curator, consultant specialized in modern and contemporary ceramics and curatorial theory. Wendy is a visiting professor at the University of Sunderland, UK, and a research associate at the University of Johannesburg, South Africa. He has curated major exhibitions on 3 continents, Africa, Europe, Asia, including biennales in China and Taiwan. Today, Wendy is giving a keynote which is devoted to the future of art and art research, recrafting sustainable practices into contemporary ceramic art and design. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ludmila. It's wonderful to be with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. And just for those who are following us on YouTube, you can hear the translation. And for those who are here with Zoom with us, choose the globe icon and choose the channel and the language you would like to hear us today. Thank you, Wendy.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Ludmila. Yeah, thank you for this wonderful invitation. It's a great honor to be with you. And it's really exciting that ceramics is the first subject that is dealt with, or ceramics, glass and textiles is the first subject that's being dealt with by this conference, and a very symbolic gesture. So kudos to you and your team for this brave choice. It's, ceramics for the last, I'd say just under 10 years has grown in international prominence and really moved into the contemporary art space for better and for worse. I won't move into this whole debate. It's certainly a rich one, and perhaps one we can talk in the presentation session or in the questions. Today, my speech is on recrafting ceramics, and I'm going to share my presentation if I can find it. Here we go. So I'll be looking at recrafting sustainable practices into contemporary ceramic art and design. And I've used the title recrafting. And ceramics obviously has a very long history of being associated with sustainable practices, from earliest Neanderthal man to William de Morgan, William Morris, Leach, Cardew. There's been a lot of landmark thinkers and practitioners along the way that have looked at different aspects of sustainable practices. I'm not going to be doing a historical overview, besides pointing out the fact that ceramics is really associated with the history of humanity in terms of artistic output. The oldest sculptural figurine dates to 40,000 years ago, and our first sculpted ceramic figurine is around 27 to 25,000 years old. These figurines, while just over 10,000 years in difference, really show us the female body is central to it. And what is interesting is that figurines predate clay pottery, which is dated from approximately 20,000 to 10,000 years old from China. So clearly sculpted figurines and this creative element drives our humanity. And just to note, when you look at this clay Venus from Dolny Vestonice, it's been burnished, which means polished. It was sculpted, and then labor-intensive process of polishing took place, and it was very carefully fired. And this figurine is one of over 7,000 objects which came from a kiln site. And in fact, there were 2 kiln sites in this cave, in which essentially we have a very, very early factory, a kiln, a ceramic production site happening. So ceramics is on one hand an artistic expression, but on another hand, it is also a commodity, and one that requires skills, requires expertise, and which can quickly be scaled up to serve local communities. This year started with the headlines saying that 2020 was the hottest year on record. We can no longer go back to naive thoughts that climate change isn't a reality and doesn't affect everyone, including artists and crafters. The field that I'm going to speak about is obviously ceramics today, but the questions that I pose are relevant to all art, craft, and design practices. I grew up, possibly like you, with the 3 R's: reuse, recycle, and repurpose. However, as the situation has degenerated for our planet, we've upped our game, and they're now 12 R's. The most important of these 12 R's are really reduce, reuse, restore, repurpose, and recycle, particularly when we're thinking about ceramics. And what I've done here is to create this pyramid looking at energy consumption, and the bottom of the pyramid being the most heavily, the zone where carbon and energy is consumed in the highest amounts. So for artists, in particular ceramic artists, their raw materials consume the most carbon and leave the highest carbon footprint. Obviously, there's also significant atmosphere and energy expended in the process of transport and mining of raw materials. Next up is the studio practice, making and firing. And with ceramic artists, for those of you who don't know, some people fire standard 3 or 4 times, which means, you know, a significant amount of heating. Those firings can last anything from 4 hours in the case of a wood-fired kiln to 5 days. Here with a brief presentation of where I'm going today. I won't be considering, well, I'm going to be looking at ceramics and the environment and touching on different aspects of artistic and design practices that deal with environmental issues. In most instances, I'm not interested in practices that merely illustrate environmental concerns, but practices that actually engage with environmental concerns. So firstly, let's look at raw and unfired clay, since firing is one of the aspects that really creates a huge carbon footprint. And we're seeing a younger generation of artists and designers embracing raw and unfired clay, producing artworks, sculptures, and design objects from this material that can last up to 200 years without any problem. One of the pioneers of raw clay is Peter Fishley and David Weiss. And here, you know, here I say one of the pioneers. Raw clay has been used since the beginning of time, but certainly within the contemporary art and design scene, this work made a significant impact. It's been shown many times and dates from 1981 to 2012. It was shown at the 2013 Biennale. There's over 100 pieces of comical, everyday, quotidian, ludicrous moments of world history and personal reflections. The piece in the middle, just for your interest, is called Theories of Practices. So you can see the sort of ludicrous nature of these works. Walter McConnell from the USA is known for his large installations of raw clay. As a curator, I've had the great privilege of working with many leading international artists and commissioning them to do major installations. And in this presentation, I'll highlight just a couple of those artists and installations as the biennales that I have curated engage with environmental issues in many instances. most notably the first Central China Ceramics Biennale, which its title was Contract Earth, and focused on our obligation and to the environment. Alexandra Engelfried, who's also an artist I've curated into that same biennale, works in a very performative manner with raw clay. Kim Jury from South Korea, who similarly creates these magnificent installations of architecture, of vernacular architecture, and floats these in water. So over the period of an exhibition, the work quite literally disappears. Helene Callinson, who once again is working with raw clay and plastic, among other areas of her practice. Carla Garcia, whose show just opened recently in Texas. I Carry This Land With Me, an exhibition that talks about migration and her experience as a Mexican immigrant within the United States. She also does what she calls these mixed media drawings that incorporate raw clay, ink, pencil, and other media. Phoebe Cummings, who's become an Instagram superstar with her raw clay floral installations that are commissioned by public spaces, and during the period of the exhibition obviously disintegrate. One only has to do a brief search on Instagram to look for raw clay or sustainable ceramics to come across hundreds upon hundreds of artists that are exploring local raw materials, including unprocessed soil, clay, silt, volcanic lava, and far more. One of the most established researchers in this field is the Dutch design studio Atelier NL, who has worked tirelessly over the last 15 or so years, sampling Dutch clay samples from across the country, and really done encyclopedic research into Dutch soils, which they have included in tile projects, in crockery projects, in paint projects, in pigments, and more recently they've moved to glass and looking at local soils and how that makes glass, exploring glass roots from the Romans that traversed Holland, and sampling soils and silica along these glass roots. Oscar Medley Whitfield and Harry Trimble from the UK in 2012, as young design students, developed a series of fish bricks for cooking fish out of the muddy silt and clay sediments from the Thames. Xilang Liu and Yihe Wang from Taiwan were commissioned for the Taiwan Ceramics Biennale to create a work. They used local silt from the Shishimen Reservoir in Taiwan. This reservoir is suffering from sedimentation problems due to the stripping of local forests. So there's land erosion happening at an unprecedented scale within Taiwan, and these natural water sources or reservoirs are clogged with silt. The objective of this project is not to create an answer to this problem of deforestation, but rather a response and to research what can be achieved with the silt and they produce beautiful Tenmoco oil spot and celadon glazes. Forma Fantasma, a legendary Italian design duo based in the Netherlands, where they teach at Design Academy Eindhoven, created a really interesting series of very beautiful glazed porcelain tiles using volcanic ash that they sourced from Mount Etna in Sicily. Moving on to transforming human and animal wastes. Sine Kim from the UK, as a student project, looked at urine, and urine actually contains a huge amount, as you would imagine, of minerals and other materials, and using their own waste, urine, and simply drying that by evaporation in their back garden, the artist created a series of glazes, 4 different ways, including the sort of pink glaze, whitey glaze, and then a more transparent glaze, which was applied to these vessels on the right called urineware, and those forms obviously recall sort of bodies and bladders and forms associated with the urinary tract. Luca Cipolliti and Gian Antonio Locatelli from Italy in 2016, associated with the design fair in Milan, created this ware of ceramics called Mar Dakota. The title says it all. It was made from cow shit, and from a factory which processed cows or produced cow milk. The urea and methane in this specific factory are also captured and transformed into the methane into gas, and the urea is also transformed, the methane is transformed into energy. Greg Moore is based in the USA and works with Michelin chef restaurants in upstate New York. His soil, stone, and bone work is literally produced from the cow bones that are eaten in this restaurant. And this restaurant is really about closed consumption cycles. They grow everything, including their own animals. So they produce the cattle are eaten, the bones are boiled, roasted, ground, and create the plates on which you eat. One of the most exciting sectors, however, is the industrial waste sector, in which ceramic artists and designers are really engaging with materials and sustainability in very exciting ways. Wan Renzing from China in 2015, just prior to the Beijing Olympic Games, undertook a project which was extremely radical and very poorly seen and viewed by the Chinese state. Basically, he walked around Beijing with a high power vacuum cleaner and vacuumed the air. After a couple of hours, he had enough dust in his vacuum cleaner to produce a brick, and he started producing bricks with the dust obtained from Beijing smog. I had intended to include this work in the first Central China Ceramics Biennale, but was told in no uncertain terms that this wasn't possible. The city I worked in, Jinzhou, is allegedly between the 7th and about the 15th most polluted cities in China. And certainly, a lot of those pollution figures are simply off any scale recommended by World Health Organizations. Granby workshop has produced a really interesting series of tableware and encaustic tiles. They're based in Liverpool and won an important prize at the 2015 or 17 Venice Biennale, 2017 Venice Biennale. These works are essentially crushed building waste, including bricks, tiles, cement, mortar, etc. And we're seeing an increasing number of artists, specifically ceramic artists and designers, using building rubble to create clay bodies. It's very strong, it's very resistant, it's already been fired, and it's readily available. Studio Thus That worked with industry specifically around aluminium. The production of aluminium creates huge amounts of waste products and materials, many of which are very toxic. One of them being red mud, the red being a result of a very high iron content in this waste material. And this studio, using industrial waste, created this series of works. Unknown Field Divisions, who I've also worked with in different capacities, but most recently in the first Central China Biennale, created a series called Rare Earthenware. And the end result of this long research project that looked at the so-called rare earthenware was, well, it took them first of all to China and into Mongolia to a place called Bitu, where these giant tailings lakes were. And their research brief and their interest was really around this notion of what is light. We constantly have, everything is light. Our phones are light. The Apple uses light for many of its products, etc. And yet a significant amount of radioactive waste is produced for these so-called light products, these slim products, these products that we are sold as very green. So the small little vase, which is shaped as a Ming, modeled after a Ming Dynasty vase, contains the amount of radioactive waste produced for a cellular telephone. The next vase, and to give you a sense of the sizes, the first vase is probably about 20 centimeters high, the next one would be about 50, and the next one would be 70 or so centimeters in height. So the second vase represents the amount of toxic waste produced in a portable computer, and the third one in the battery, in a smart battery of a scooter. Getting closer to Russia, we have a Lithuanian designer who is producing work with precious metals obtained from recycling processes, from smelting. And she's created a series called Ignorance is Bliss. The results are fairly random and often metallic, and she's commercialized these and sells them. Nineke Hoogvliet from the Netherlands works with the Dutch water company to recycle toilet paper that has come out of the sewage system. Every year, hundreds and thousands of tons of toilet paper goes down our drains. This can be treated and recycled and used within ceramic products. The artist and designer created not only bowls and crockery, but also pendant lights and other objects. Waste also can come from the ceramics industry. Yanse Jiang in China created this amazing work, San Shui, which recycles ceramic filters and really speaks about this. Well, this work speaks about the chasm between our industrial environments and fantasies of pristine nature. We're looking at ceramic studio waste now and how that is transformed by innovative practitioners. The first being Jonathan Mess, and I really encourage you to go onto my ceramics coach YouTube channel. There's a great interview with him under in my Mud Matters webinars. So Jonathan quite literally goes to local residencies and also teaches ceramics at a local high school. All the waste gets recycled, but stuff that doesn't winds up in these buckets. And once a year during his summer holidays, he takes all this reclaimed waste and fires them up to create these amazing sculptural pieces. Deb Schwarzkopf has really got an approach of an activist and teaches people how to make bricks and pavers in community as a community project using recycled clay and glaze. I'm going to move on to obviously transforming found objects and ready-mades. Ruth Caxton is using popular figurines that she repurposes within her installations. And really, it was in sort of the early 2010s, we see a lot of recycling and upcycling of found ceramics happening within, by artists and designers internationally. Barnaby Barford from the UK, who does these very humorous and ironic pieces. The first one on the left, stick that on YouTube 2013, which is, specifically, hugely topical given recent history of George Floyd and just how viral images of violence can be. In this case, he's obviously got Humpty Dumpty. And the second image, 2013, Great Doctor, but what can we do with it? Referring to, genetic modification and Dolly the sheep, which came out around that period. Malin Landmark, who I worked with for the Taiwan Biennale, a Swedish designer who repurposes found objects in very interesting and creative ways to create very poetic installations. Caroline Slaughter, who reworks secondhand ceramics and found objects with different tools, with sandblasters, with small handheld Dremel type drills, etc. And is making really interesting work that reflects on the history of the movement of these objects and traces. Bauke de Vries, another amazing artist who I've been privileged to work with in a couple of contexts, who's creating, who's actually a trained ceramics restorer and has a parallel career as a restorer, but buys pieces on eBay, which he reconfigures into artworks. He also, as in the case of the work on the left, works with contemporary glass blowers to create these so-called memory vessels that contain fragments of broken works and poetically reconfigures broken works. In a similar vein, Kao-Ting Chen from Taiwan, who's a jeweler, works with damaged and broken ceramic objects to highlight their the break, the fault, and the mend. Obviously, this process of mending ceramics is not new. It dates to the 16th century Japan, where the tradition of kintsugi originated. Karen Karenson from Sweden does interesting work. She finds ceramic objects and melts them in the kiln with other waste materials and creates these hybrid sort of ceramic glaze ready-made sculptures. And lastly, Osama Kojima from Japan, who's working with traditional terracotta tiles in Taiwan and creates these phenomenal sculptures. They're really big, as you can see, 105 by 93 by 102 centimeters, in which he stacks these traditional tiles and piles or sort of pours glaze into them, which create these sort of glaze pools and waterfalls. It's very exciting times. The impact of climate change is being taken on board by manufacturers, and the first two commercial solutions to green clay are being tested, or the first one actually exists, is recently launched by a clay company in Germany called Wendy, in which they are no longer using traditional clay, which is mined and has a huge environmental impact. They are actually using building materials and building rubble and creating a very clean body. Their clay plant is powered with solar energy, etc., etc., and they've really got a very radical and innovative approach to clay, and it is the only green body currently existent in the world. Shashank Nimkar from India is doing something very similar. It's still very much in the startup phase, but his Tatvami slip body will be made. And sorry, for people who aren't familiar with ceramics terms, slip is liquid clay that is generally used for casting. So he's creating a casting body of liquid clay that is made from recycled whiteware, so baths and sinks, as you can see in the top image. There's just tons and tons of this kind of industrial waste, and his proposal is that by recycling this industrial whiteware, we are reducing mining by up to 60%. And what is obviously very important for Indians is that this whiteware is 100% vegan, as opposed to somebody like Greg Moore, who we saw earlier using bone china. That kind of solution is just not an option for Indians. I'm aware of time, and we're heading towards the end of my presentation. So what is the way forward? What are the key challenges? Well, for me, the key challenge facing the sector is the provenance of raw materials. And ceramic artists are consuming vast amounts of clay, which is mined in very unsustainable ways. But what they don't know is where a lot of their materials come from. Most clay manufacturers do not indicate the provenance of their materials. I visited a factory in Limoges, and certainly everybody knows Limoges is the capital of French porcelain, and it still produces porcelain. However, the actual original quarries have dried up. The large mining company Imerys imports kaolin from Eastern Europe, from Australia and New Zealand, which are mixed together in its central production facility in central France, in Limoges. and then shipped out to the whole world. So it has a phenomenal, material footprint, and yet nobody knows about this. Everybody thinks they're buying porcelain from Limoges, as it is marketed as such. And while this is clearly very deceptive, most material manufacturers make no effort to inform their clients where materials come from. My colleagues at the University of Missoula have created a fabulous interactive materials map, which I don't have time to show, but I'll gladly share this link with you, where they've used Google Maps to trace all the mined materials, all the dry materials used in the ceramic department. And it's a phenomenally huge list. And this university is also really pioneering the way in terms of looking at some of those materials. So Nicole Ham, who's a post-bac student, did some research on alumina hydrate, which is a substance which is powdered onto kiln shelves to stop ceramics from sticking. And she's really looked at the amount of energy consumed in this process and then the miles involved. So the energy used is between 2 gigajoules and 21 gigajoules. That is in the process of refining, which is only one of the processes involved in creating this alumina, but one of the most significant. So what is a gigajoule? Well, 1 gigajoule is 2.77.8 kilowatt hours, and 277, and 200 kilowatt hours is enough to power a small home for a month. So one sees there just the phenomenal amount of energy that's involved in one small process of refining bauxite into alumina. And then looking at the transport of alumina, so there's actually two main mines, one's in Australia and one's in Brazil. We're assuming that the material used by the students in Montana are coming from Brazil, and that's just an assumption. But from the mine in Porto Trombetas to the place where it's shipped, where it's refined, we're looking at 3,991 miles, 1,451 nautical miles. It's then shipped to Montreal from Brazil for distribution, and from Montreal it's shipped to California, and from California it's then shipped to Helena, Montana, and from Montana it's shipped to Missoula, where it arrives for these students. And this research, which uncovered the 9,700 miles that this material has traveled, and the amount of energy has significantly shaken up the students and made them very mindful and aware. And students previously were making really large works, and now they're making a lot smaller, and certainly using, being far more mindful about how they make and what materials they're starting to make. And this research project is seen as certainly one of many, hopefully. So ceramic artists and designers can reduce the environmental impact, and here I'm summarizing, by reconsidering and being mindful of researching their raw materials, knowing where they come from, understanding the material miles involved. They can be more mindful about the way they design their studio facilities, and particularly drainage, because a lot of drainage, recycling, reusing, etc. They can make intelligent decisions about the production process, how often you fire, at what temperature do you fire, aiming to reduce your firing temperature and the number of firings. You can look at green packing materials and look at green transporters where available. more importantly, I think artists, and this is across the board, have an important role to play in educating the public as well as participating in environmental networks. So the next question is, obviously, what are those environmental networks? Well, they're few and far between. The first within the ceramics sector is the Nsika Green Task Force, which is based in the United States. I am a member of that, and we're very active. Tomorrow we're having an Earth Day celebration, and a smaller group which has recently been set up in Australia is called Clay Matters, and this is also just getting going. I recently set up an initiative called Clean Green Ceramics, which offers certification to ceramic artists, potteries, as in production facilities, community studios, and workshops, and looks at best professional practices in environmental management. There are also hundreds of chat groups for raw clay and other associated interests on Facebook, but they do not necessarily tackle the issue of environmental management and sustainability. I'd like to conclude by saying that, or by repeating Donna Haraway, paraphrasing her, and saying that we're living in a very troubled time and that we need to learn to stay with these troubles of living and dying together on a damaged earth. And this will provide more conducive conditions to the kind of thinking that we need to provide the means to building more livable futures. So yeah, think on these troubles, dwell on these troubles of the Anthropocene, and be mindful and take action on that mindfulness. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing or to your questions, and
Thank you.
Hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for this brilliant and very thought-provoking presentation. I'm sure there are lots of questions and comments. Unfortunately, because of the technical issues, we have very, small space for those, but we do have our chat box, which is a fantastic space for sharing opinions and comments. But questions and comments, we have 5 minutes at least to do that. So you either, just show a sign.
Okay, yes, there's a hand up.
Yeah, Olga has a question.
Thank you very much, Wendy, for your interesting and informative presentation. I really enjoyed it. And my question is about the timeline of green ceramics. I was just wondering, were there any strategies of sustainable ceramics in the past, say in the 19th or in the 20th century, or are all these developments concern our time? Are they recent, when people became aware of the risks for the environment? So it's basically about the history.
Sure. I think that's a very interesting question, and one I struggle to answer, because the fact that we've come to a point where we acknowledge our limited resources and the necessity to rethink raw materials is new, and we haven't come to that point previously. I think there were thoughts around sustainability, but they were not as focused as we are today. So, for example, in the 50s and 60s, there were communities within North America. Jenny Sorkin has written very well about these women-centric communities where performative clay practices occurred. You know, I think Leach and Cardew had their own take on sustainability. It was a very masculine and a very, what I would call a pale male take on it. You know, let's go out and be men and make ceramics and mine and do these traditional firings, and that were very labor intensive and very resource intensive, but they were sort of living off the grid and living as hippies and kind of creating alternative economies. So there are threads of sort of sustainability that runs through previous practices, but until recently, the sort of deeper questioning of materials and practices and why we are creating more objects when you can go and buy ceramic objects at charity shops. Why what is the need and the significance of creating more stuff, and the importance of mindfulness in this process is, I think, very recent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy.